This is Neural Newscast.
Here is what matters this morning.
From Neural Newscast, I'm Peter Rowan.
And I'm Evelyn Hartwell.
Investigators are working at New York's LaGuardia Airport today following a fatal collision between an Air Canada regional jet and a fire truck. The crash occurred late Sunday night, resulting in the deaths of both the pilot and co-pilot after their cockpit was severed upon impact.
The jet was a Jazz aviation flight from Montreal carrying 72 passengers when it struck a Port Authority vehicle crossing the runway. This collision has placed a sharp focus on air traffic control, as audio recordings reveal a controller cleared the truck to cross before telling it to stop too late.
National Transportation Safety Board Chair Jennifer Homendy confirms that investigators have recovered the aircraft's black boxes and are examining whether staffing levels played a role.
Transportation Secretary Duffy noted that while the tower was not understaffed at the time, the airport is currently operating below its target of 37 certified controllers.
Capacity at LaGuardia will remain significantly reduced for several days as crews sift through a tremendous amount of debris on the closed runway. The incident coincides with a partial government shutdown, adding further strain to an aviation system already facing personnel shortages and operational delays. Turning now to international affairs, the President of the Philippines has declared a national energy emergency to address the impacts of the war in the Middle East. The declaration is intended to stabilize the nation's energy supply as regional instability continues to disrupt global fuel markets.
This emergency response highlights the vulnerability of Pacific economies to long-distance supply chain disruptions caused by distant conflicts. Filipino officials are expected to implement conservation measures and price monitoring to protect consumers from the volatility we have tracked in recent climate and resource reports.
The geopolitical ripple effects are also being felt in Europe, where police in the Czech Republic have arrested 3 individuals for arson. The suspects are accused of targeting a warehouse that stores and supplies drones destined for use by the Ukrainian military.
This incident follows a series of suspicious fires across the continent that authorities believe are part of a broader campaign to undermine support for Ukraine. Czech investigators are currently working to determine if the suspects have links to foreign intelligence services or extremist organizations.
In other news, government officials in Cyprus are calling for frank discussions with the United Kingdom regarding the future of British military bases. These installations, which remain sovereign British territory, have become a point of contention as regional security dynamics shift and local calls for sovereignty increase.
The bases serve as critical strategic hubs for operations in the Middle East, making their status a high-stakes issue for international defense policy. Any change in the current agreement would require a complex renegotiation of treaties that have been in place since Cyprus gained independence in 1960.
Meanwhile, the Transportation Safety Board of Canada has dispatched a team of technical advisors to New York to assist in the LaGuardia investigation. Because the aircraft was operated by a Canadian regional carrier, international protocols mandate cooperation between the NTSB and their Canadian counterparts.
Their expertise will be vital as investigators examine the structural failure of the cockpit and the survival of a flight attendant who was thrown from the aircraft. The Canadian team will work alongside United States experts to analyze flight data and ensure that safety recommendations are applied across the North American aviation network.
Still, the impact of the crash is being felt most acutely by passengers, as Delta and other major carriers at LaGuardia face ongoing cancellations. The partial government shutdown has already limited the Federal Aviation Administration's ability to process travel disruptions, leading to a mounting backlog of domestic flights.
Airlines are advising travelers to check their flight status frequently as the airport operates at roughly half its normal capacity. The bottleneck in New York is creating secondary delays at major hubs like Atlanta and Chicago, illustrating the fragile interconnectedness of the national airspace.
Next, federal investigators are requesting a replay from the Airport Surface Detection Equipment, or ASDE, to determine if ground sensors triggered alerts. This surveillance system is designed to track vehicles and aircraft on the tarmac to prevent the exact type of collision that occurred on Sunday night.
Jennifer Homendy noted that the NTSB will investigate whether the fire truck was visible on the system and if the controller had enough time to react. If the technology failed to provide an automated warning, it could lead to a nationwide review of ground safety systems at other major airports.
Here is what else we are watching. The National Transportation Safety Board is scheduled to release a preliminary update on the LaGuardia investigation tomorrow morning. This report is expected to provide more detail on the initial findings from the cockpit voice recorder and the interviews with the surviving controllers.
We are also tracking a scheduled update on airport capacity as Port Authority officials attempt to clear the remaining debris. If the cleanup progresses on schedule, a second runway could be reopened by Wednesday, which would significantly ease the current travel delays across the Northeast.
Finally, we are monitoring the latest round of negotiations in Washington as lawmakers attempt to resolve the partial government shutdown. The shutdown has become a central point of discussion following the crash at LaGuardia, with many questioning if budget constraints are compromising essential safety personnel.
I'm Evelyn Hartwell.
And I'm Peter Rowan.
This has been Neural Newscast. Thanks for listening.
Neural Newscast is AI-assisted, human-reviewed. View our AI transparency policy at neuralnewscast.com.